Okay, so the game was Geronimo. It's hard to say what I can say about it. The game's got a lot of problems that it's facing. First off, just take the subject matter. I mean, it's all about attacking civilians. It's about genocide. Right off the bat there, that's not popular, and while it might have been in, say, the 1950s, now, or when it came out in the 90s, there was a lot more feeling that, you just, these aren't things to enjoy in any sense. It's a fairly historical treatment of it, though, and I don't think the rules are at all I don't think there's any nastiness in it. I don't think there's really a view. If anything, the view is very much in favor of the Indians. And one has to say, okay, sure, they're defending their land, but there was significant atrocity on both sides. Now, the rules definitely recognize that. But there's also this tremendous sadness running throughout them about the plight of the natives. I had at least one friend who would not play it. He was native and just couldn't, for whatever reason, handle this. The other major thing that is going against the game is it sits in this kind of land where it's not really a war game, but it's too big to not be a war game. 6 to 8 hours, basic game versus advanced game, say. Reasonably complex rules. It takes 24 pages to explain everything. They don't do a great job either. It's Avalon Hill. What do you expect? I mean, they never really got their act together on how to write a good rule book. So there's a lot more to it. The system's a little bit more complex than your non-war gamer usually enjoys. Yet it really is not a war game at all. And at one point in the early 80s, you could target something like Civilization managed to get away with that. And maybe there were a few other games that kind of fit that mold and at least became somewhat cult classics, things like Lords of Sierra Madre, which unfortunately I may have lost the video for. But it's always tough to get even in the height of my gaming time, it was really tough to get a group of people together willing to commit to a full day's game of something that maybe they're not sure they really love, So that's one side of the problem. Another side is the whole turn-changing mechanism, where you're not devoted to any one country. You see that something like History of the World, they're still yours after you no longer are playing them as an active power. Here, there's just no view towards the next turn, towards the future, whatever. You want your points and you want them now. All that said, every time that I've played this, first of all, it draws me back continuously as a solitaire game. But it's particularly ill-suited for solitaire, I think. I never have as much fun as I hope. But every time I've played it with other people, it's been a really, really good time for almost everyone. People who are willing to put that commitment of 6-8 hours in have been very happy with the fluidity of the game. The fact that it comes down to the wire, I don't know, I think I threw out the score sheet, but almost every game is closer than this one that I've played. But it does often come down to who gets the proper position. So on that last turn, getting the U.S., if it's a close game, may assure you victory. The only exception to that is if it's a really, really close game. One of the Indian players who has the lowest points may be able to pull off a victory. That's kind of disturbing, to play something for 8 hours and have it come down to one turn, who got which side. So those are the big complaints about it, but I'm still saying it was a lot of fun when playing it with other people. I can, just, it moves very fast. Actions don't take any time at all, basically. A lot of people it's almost always 2 people involved, because no matter what's going on, the U.S. is involved in something. But they go like that. They're very fast. You impact other people. You have a lot of ability to affect someone else's ability to get points in a turn. But I don't know. The actual rules, like I said, they're not as clear as you could hope. They're kind of pleasing to read. A lot of historical notes, a lot of information in them, but they're not organized very well. I find myself having to look things up regularly. There was a sheet of clarifications in errata from Berg, which, there's component-wise, it's pretty decent. Came up with player aid cards. They were becoming kind of common then. Nice deck of cards. Decent quality counters. Mounted map. I'm not thrilled with the mounted map, but I think for this game it's the right level. Hard box, whatever. One thing in the play that bugs me, probably the biggest issue, other than trying to remember all the little things, especially at the end of the turn. The end of the turn cleanup gets kind of tedious. One of the things is the U.S. player has to roll the die on every player's action to see whether or not he gets a bonus thing. In addition to the village he gets to place, he might get a railroad, he might get a mine. Both in solitaire and in multiplayer games, I've noticed that quite often that's forgotten for periods of time. And it's very easy to forget to do that, at least in groups I've been in. So it's a worry there that there's something you have to remember that doesn't seem obvious. It may not be a big deal for everyone, but I know in the groups that we had it was. The biggest thing, though, for me is, I do come back to it every time. I could never recommend this game to anyone to purchase, even to play. I would say, that it can't be judged as, trying to judge it as a pure game, it's actually pretty good, I think. Except for that final turn issue. Hey, who won? Oh, the guy who rolled and got the U.S. or whatever. That can almost be predicted on that last turn. And it's like, well, we played for 7 turns and none of them really mattered. We stayed about even. Second one is, I'm having trouble thinking. Second big problem with recommending it is I try to look at that historical view of the game. And there's an attempt to be very historical here in a lot of ways, but if you look at how the U.S. spreads, that's not too historical. And if you look at, there's just too much fluidity, too many different options where the points are, etc. It's really kind of random. I don't mind when the gold mines drive things, but I feel like the eastern section of the board is too often neglected because of the Sioux, whatever. So you get too much development to the far west. So I'm not really sure what it is other than fun, at least a couple of times. I think a group couldn't get many plays out of this without saying, wow, the end game sucks so much. The fact that it comes down to one player. But I just remember the cool events where somebody, one time in particular strikes me, somebody thought that they had a guaranteed statehood, and like, nothing can stop me now. And there was this little tribe, the Pawnee, that had been beaten up early and never really got much bigger, but somebody's like, "You forgot about the Pawnee," and stops him. And it was that kind of moment, you know. I mean, there's that kind of interaction and number of players and everything that made this fun for a couple shots. Now, I got my copy real cheap, and I don't regret it at all, but I can see why it never was all that popular, even though it has, I don't know, a lot of draw for me for whatever reason. And I have no idea why.